The DJI Mini 4 Pro and Avata 2 are two drones that, while on the surface it might seem like they don't have a lot in common, actually don't really have a lot in common. Yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, guys. These two drones are very different and have very different uses and intended audiences. However, I have had a lot of people asking for me to make a video comparing these two, mostly because they are kind of about the same price at like $1,200-ish once you kit them out and whatnot. And they're both kind of aimed at beginners. I mean, the Mini 4 Pro definitely is aimed at beginners, and with the Avata 2, a big marketing thing is that you can fly it with the motion controller and anyone can fly it and have fun and get that FPV experience. So with that in mind, here I am creating a comparison video between these two drones, despite the fact that they don't really line up when you compare them. There are people who have made comparison videos out there, so rather than just copying like what they did essentially, I'm gonna do a little twist on that and try to break down how well can the Mini 4 Pro Avata 2 and how well can the Avata 2, how well can the Mini 4 Pro, okay, wait, what is it? And how well can the Mini 4 Pro Avata 2 and how well can the Avata 2 Mini 4 Pro? Whew. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but essentially what that means is how good is this drone at doing some of the stuff that this drone is known for and vice versa. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. I don't know. Before we do get fully into the video, I wanna say, of course, like every YouTuber says, links are in the description, subscribe, social media, whatnot. I know you hear it all the time, but it does really help. It keeps my channel going because this video is sponsored by me. Yeah, I'm the one sponsoring it, or I guess you if you're clicking through an affiliate link and buying a product through one of my affiliate links. So I really do appreciate it, and with that in mind, top link, or one of the top links, is gonna actually be a helpful link for you, which is my own comparison spreadsheet that I put together for all the DJI drones that I use to, you know, when I'm making these videos, compare, all right, what sensor does this have? What sensor does that have? What's the flight time like on this drone versus that drone? Yeah, it's a free resource that I provide. The only thing I ask is just, yeah, show some appreciation and love for it. Share it around, comment down below if it's helpful, and like I said, use my affiliate links if you want to. So otherwise, yeah, that's enough of the chit chat. Let's get into the video comparing these two drones. All right, so even though these two drones don't have much in common, let's start by trying to compare as many of the features as we can that actually compare. And those are the 5 big features that, you know, the 5 big questions that people ask when they see that you're flying a drone. And that is how much, how fast, how far, how long, and what does the image quality look like. So yeah, let's go through those 5, and afterwards then we'll get into the more complicated tongue twister of how well does the Mini 4 Pro Avata 2, how well does the Avata 2 Mini 4 Pro. So number 1, cost. Like I said, about the same price. The Mini 4 Pro is a little bit cheaper, and potentially a lot cheaper if you factor in the fact that you're probably gonna wanna get the manual controller for the Avata 2 so that you can do full manual acro mode, which is really the big enticing feature about an FPV drone. So yeah, about $240 cheaper for the Mini 4 Pro. Getting the extended battery edition, if you're getting the standard battery edition, it's actually even a little cheaper. So Mini 4 Pro is definitely winning there on the price category. Let's now go to the next category, how fast. This one was a bit surprising. Like most people, I think, would have thought that the Avata 2 was blowing away the Mini 4 Pro, but actually when I went out and tested them both in sport mode, the Avata 2 was only marginally faster than the Mini 4 Pro, I think like 2 to 3 miles an hour faster. However, when I did then unlock the full manual mode and switch it into that, it actually was able to hit like 45 or 50 miles an hour. So that's like 15 miles an hour faster, 10 miles an hour faster. So significantly faster than the Mini 4 Pro. The thing I want to mention though, and I don't know if other people have mentioned this in other reviews and whatnot, but these two drones react very differently to the wind. The Avata 2, because of the surface area, it has a lot of surface area you can see there. When you're flying into the wind and it's, you know, a fairly windy day to a very windy day, it really doesn't like it. It struggles a lot and it's gonna fly a lot slower. Now the Mini 4 Pro still struggles. It's a lighter drone. So it does get blown around a good amount, but the fact that, you know, when these arms are out and whatnot, that's not much surface area for the wind to press on. At least I think this is my theory. It doesn't get blown around and affected as much by the wind and can still fly pretty fast in the wind, compared to the Avata 2. So that is an interesting thing I discovered, and that's my theory on why it is. So that's how fast, how far. I did find in general the Mini 4 Pro was a little bit better range, mostly because you're pointing the controller directly, or you should be pointing the controller directly towards the drone. So it's like the optimized, sending signal in the right direction sort of thing. The Avata 2, your signal I think is going from the goggles, so I wasn't sure exactly how to line those up, and there's no like handy of like, oh, here, position it this way like there is on the controller. So in general, I found that the Mini 4 Pro had a little better signal, but they should both be about the same because they're both using OcuSync 4. So yeah, pretty much a tie in that category. How long? Battery life, the fourth category. That is, one of the big questions that people ask when they see you flying a drone. This is clear win to the Mini 4 Pro. Like 20 minutes plus, maybe 22 minutes. With the standard battery, with the extended battery, you're looking at closer to 30 minutes or more. I've even got like 34, 35 minutes when you're really pushing it. So really good battery life on the Mini 4 Pro. Obviously, the advertised flight times, don't pay attention to those. Those are kind of always BS. With the Avata 2, now FPV drones are not known for getting incredible battery life. I mean, you're pulling a lot higher amperages, because the motors are, asking a lot more. You're doing a lot more like that and changes, which obviously take a lot more energy. And the fact that these propellers are smaller, the motors have to actually spin at a faster speed, which means they're using up a lot more power and a lot more energy. So as a result, with the Avata 2, I found hovering, it was in the 14 to 16 minute range, which not great. Obviously, that's a significant amount less than the Mini 4 Pro. But then when you decide to actually like fly it like an FPV drone, it's going to be significantly less, probably like 10 minutes to 12 minutes. If you have a lot of wind, like I mentioned, that's going to drop it down even more. So yeah, battery life is not great with the Avata 2 when compared to the Mini 4 Pro, but for an FPV drone, I guess it's not bad. And then finally, the last category we have is image quality. And I could go on forever about this, but I mean, I'll do some side-by-side comparison shots. It was a little hard to do that because the FPV drone standard is a wide-angle lens like a GoPro. So the Avata 2 has something that's similar to a GoPro or like the ultra-wide camera on the back of your smartphone, whereas the Mini 4 Pro has something that's more like the standard camera on the back of your smartphone, like 28 millimeters, I think, maybe 24 millimeters, somewhere in that range. But either way, it was a little bit hard to compare the shots. I did as best as I could. As you can see, I tried to line up some stuff, get some interesting shots to compare, and so you can see, all right, how good is the image quality compare. But overall, video quality on the Avata 2, it's not bad. Like, yeah, you can, with practice, you can get this, smooth shots you want, really working to do some smooth movements with the sticks. Granted, it's not a 3-axis gimbal, so that's kind of the look of FPV is, yeah, there's going to be a little more jerkiness to it. But yeah, you can get some decent shots. It's not a bad camera if you're just shooting for social media. Yeah, it's all right. But it's definitely not as good as the Mini 4 Pro. And when it comes to photo quality, that is just not even close. I mean, yeah, I guess this is, it's nice it has photo mode. It's definitely a pain to switch to photo mode. Like, you have to click down, click on photo mode, click the photo, then click back, click change the video, then start recording in video again. Like, just really overall, I did not like the experience of having to use the headset. It's so much easier to have the controller with the screen and be able to tap around and, change to photo mode and video mode just with a click of a button and whatnot. But it does have photo mode. However, I doubt most people ever will use it because it's only JPEG. There's no RAW option, and the wide angle, it's just not great. But yeah, a couple times, I've used it to take photos here and there, and it's not bad. But thing is, with the Mini 4 Pro, you can just do a panorama and get the same field of view pretty much. So yeah, if you're like, I want wide angle photos, don't worry, the Mini 4 Pro does it. And it does everything way better when it comes to image quality. You get HLG as an option, which if you don't know, that's actual real HDR, so a brighter dynamic range. You do have D-Log in both of these, which is nice that DJI did add that to the Avata 2. But then, like I said, you have, with the Mini 4 Pro, you have actual raw photos, and you have up to 48 megapixel, which isn't great, but hey, still an option. Really, Mini 4 Pro absolutely blows the Avata 2 away when it comes to image quality, and partially that's because the narrower field of view, I think, does offer a little bit more cinematic look than the Avata 2. So those are the 5 basic drone features that I compared directly. Now let's get into how well does the Mini 4 Pro Avata 2, how well does the Avata 2 Mini 4 Pro. So for this, I basically created 10 categories that I thought defined that drone, and then I scored it on a scale of 1 to 10 each category, how well the other drone did. So for example, let's go first, how well did the Mini 4 Pro Avata 2? For the Avata 2, I came up with 10 categories. It was a bit of a stretch to come out with full 10 categories because the Avata 2 doesn't have many features. It's pretty narrow and niche down to what it offers, but I came up with 10 categories, don't worry. And here you can see, I'll put up on the screen, how the Mini 4 Pro did across all the different categories on a scale of 1 to 10 in each of those categories. And while you're looking at that, you can see, all right, some not so great, but overall pretty well across the board. But really the overarching theme I found for comparing the Mini 4 Pro and seeing how well Avata 2 was essentially how well does the Mini 4 Pro do FPV. And when considering that, I broke it down into a good amount of different categories. The big thing off the bat, wide angle lens and the ability to get that like tilting FPV look. Obviously, right out of the box, the Mini 4 Pro does have an FPV mode, which basically locks the gimbal down, so you do get that kind of like FPV look. And then you can also put on a wider angle lens, or just a little filter, I guess, which makes the view wider. For $40, DJI sells this. I think other companies even make it as well. I bought one for the Mini 3 Pro. It worked. I have a review video of it. It's good. It's nothing bad about it, but I personally just didn't like the look. But if you really want to make your Mini 4 Pro Avata 2, that's definitely right off the bat one thing to do that will help it do that. The other thing is put on some propeller guards. They do make them, and you just pop them on to your Mini 4 Pro, and then you worry a little bit less about it just falling out of the air if you touch a twig, or just get slightly too close to the wall or whatnot. Like, the propeller guards do protect it a little bit more, and it's definitely something that with the Avata 2 contributes to the confidence that you can shoot gaps and whatnot. Now, the other FPV stuff, or the other things that contribute to the FPV-ness of the Avata 2 and seeing how well the Mini 4 Pro does it. Speed, obviously we talked about that before. Mini 4 Pro can actually fly pretty fast. Like, it's definitely, I think a lot of people just assume that the Avata 2 is gonna blow it away, but Mini 4 Pro can kind of do it. Full acro mode, that is the one thing the Mini 4 Pro cannot do at all. Basically, full acro mode, if you don't know, what that means is essentially your throttle stick is gonna control the throttle directly of the drone. Like, if you go full up, the motors will be going full speed, and if you go full down, the motors will almost be stopped and the drone will essentially free fall out of the air. And that's how you get those incredible, shots where you're diving down a cliff or a waterfall. I mean, it does take a lot of practice to get those. It's not like, just full manual and then I'm good to do those. No, trust me, I thought that, maybe they'd be easy in a couple tries, but it takes a lot of work for sure. So it's not like, okay, just flick it into that and we're good to go. It does take a lot of work. However, with the Mini 4 Pro, you'll never be able to do that because all the throttle stick does is essentially control how fast up or down you're going, and even at full down on the stick, you'll never be able to completely free fall like you can do with the Avata 2. So that's one thing the Mini 4 Pro can't do when it comes to FPV-ness. However, there are two final things that the Mini 4 Pro can do completely, and that is use the goggles and use the motion controller. So if the whole reason you were looking at getting this Avata 2 here was like, I want to have that immersive view, I want to be able to put on the goggles, look cool, and fly with the futuristic joystick thingy, then just know that you can do those all with the Mini 4 Pro, no problem. They work completely fine. Just buy them as an accessory, hook them up, and you can fly with them. The only thing you can't do with the motion controller is the easy acro, because the Mini 4 Pro doesn't fly like that. But yeah, if that's the whole reason you're going to get the Avata 2, then just get the Mini 4 Pro, because you can use the goggles, you can use the motion controller, and you can get that thrill without having to sacrifice all the features of the Mini 4 Pro to get the niche down Avata 2. So yeah, that's how well the Mini 4 Pro Avata 2s. You can see those scores. Overall, across the board, does pretty well, like in the mid 50s. like solidly can do pretty decent as a FPV drone. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for how well the Avata 2 can Mini 4 Pro. So let's just pop up the 10 categories I came up with for the Mini 4 Pro that I thought defined it, and then put up the scores of each category for how well the Avata 2 did in those categories. And as you can see, pretty low scores across the board. Like I said, it did not fare well. I tried to be generous in some cases too, but really, yeah, let's focus on 3 categories that I thought deserved attention, or 3 areas. Number 1, video quality, image quality, and also options for capture, because that's a really important thing. With the Avata 2, you get 2 modes. You get photo mode, which I mentioned, which isn't great, and then you of course get video mode, which it's decent. Pretty good quality video, 4K 60 D-Log, like bitrate is pretty good. Manual mode is all right, and stuff like that. But what you don't get is all the other options that you have with the Mini 4 Pro here, which, if you don't know, are a lot of options. You get hyperlapse, you get slow-mo, which I guess technically the Avata 2 does have 4K 120, so okay, it has slow-mo. But you also get panorama, you get vertical video, you get like so many options. You get 48 megapixel mode if you want that. You get HLG mode if you want HDR. Like, this is truly just a flying camera. That is the whole point of this drone. Where the Avata 2 is kind of a toy and it's kind of all about the thrills and going fast and whatnot, the Mini 4 Pro is just trying to be a flying camera. That's the whole point of a cinematic drone. And as a result, you get a drone that has camera features first and foremost, and offers the newest cutting edge stuff. 360 photospheres, boom, it can do it. If you want it, you can do it with the Mini 4 Pro. So really, the Avata 2 does not do very well in that category. Another category the Avata 2 really pulls up short is like the sensors, ActiveTrack category, and automated flight modes, because the Avata 2 does not have any of that really. It has return to home. That's about the only thing I would call automated, if I'm being generous, because essentially if you lose signal with the Avata 2, it'll fly up to the pre-programmed flight mode or height and fly back to you, but it has no sensors, so it will just happily plow into a tree or building if that's in the way. I think we've gotten used to drones having sensors on the front, so in case you do lose a signal, it will possibly avoid something rather than flying straight into it. The Avata 2 does not have sensors because most of the time you're not going to want those. If you're flying the Mini 4 Pro, like an FPV drone, you're going to flick it to sport mode to turn off the sensors. So they go, hey, let's just lose the sensors. It does have downwards and backwards sensors, which contribute very well to position hold when it's low to the ground and whatnot. But yeah, no ActiveTrack avoidance or whatnot, and no automated flight modes. If you want to film yourself at all, don't even consider getting the Avata 2. Like, just get the Mini 4 Pro and get on to filming yourself and, fulfilling your dreams of being a content creator or whatever and documenting your life, because the Avata 2 just cannot do any of that. It doesn't have any automated flight modes. It doesn't have ActiveTrack. So, besides the fact that you have to wear the goggles, this drone cannot follow you, and you can't set waypoints for it to do a move while you walk out or while, I don't know, whatever happens. But yeah, really pulls up short in those categories. And the final category I had, how does this fare with portability? Well, for one, it is over 250 grams. So if you're, been looking at the Mini 4 Pro and being like, oh, I like how it's under 250 grams, that allows me to get under some, rules and stuff and fly in more places. The Avata 2 is over 250 grams. And then if you're just like, oh, I want a drone that I can take with me. Well, the thing with the Avata 2 is you always have to take more than just the drone. You can't just take the drone and the controller and a battery and pop it in a crossbody bag and go out, for a run and, hey, if I see something cool, I'll film. No, you gotta have the drone, the controller, you gotta have the goggles. You maybe want to bring the motion controller too, or maybe you want to bring the manual controller, vice versa or whatnot. So you have 2 controllers, and this drone doesn't fold down. This is what what you see is what you get. This whole thing's got to be there. So as you can see with these shots comparing the weight of the full kit and then also the weight of the bag with the kit and like the size, the Mini 4 Pro packs down a lot more. A lot smaller package, a lot easier to throw into a backpack, into a purse and whatnot, and just hit the road. The Avata 2, it is impressive how small they've gotten the whole package to be, and the goggles, you can compact them with the back strap or whatever and the battery, like it's all in one. Like, yeah, it's not, I would say, you know, cumbersome. It's definitely not as big as like a Mavic 3 kit or a, you know, big DSLR with a tripod and whatnot, you know, so fairly small, but it's still like 2 Mini 4 Pro bags and about 5 pounds when you're all said and done for the whole kit with the FPV controller. So yeah, overall, again, putting up those categories, the Avata 2 really cannot Mini 4 Pro. And then going back to the first thing, the Mini 4 Pro does a fairly good job at doing what the Avata 2 does. So what that means when we break it down to its most simple thing is that the Mini 4 Pro is a lot more versatile drone. The Avata 2 is an FPV drone at its heart, and that's what it does. It does that, does it well. I mean, I'm not an expert on FPV drones, but from what I understand, it does it pretty well. Obviously, you can build your own. And if you really want to get into FPV drones, there are a lot better options out there, but if this gets you a good working FPV drone that's not going to have any issues, it's not the best, it's not the fastest, maybe the specs maybe aren't the best, but yeah, it's an FPV drone. Now, that's all it does. It's an FPV drone, and good luck getting it to do anything else. I tried to do like, let me do some tilt shots, let me do some follow me shots, no, this is an FPV drone, and I would say for most people who are gonna get it, it's gonna mostly be a toy. Now that could be different for you. If you're like, I'm specifically gonna do fly-throughs of houses and stuff like that, then yeah, this is gonna be a big benefit to you and a lot more of like a piece of gear in your bag than a toy. But for most people, I think if you're being honest with yourself, like this is largely gonna be a toy. Now, the Mini 4 Pro is a very versatile drone. It is marketed mostly like a cinema drone. Like I said, it's basically just a flying camera, but as you can tell from the scores, it can do a lot of things that the FPV drones can do because it has all the same things. It has propellers, it has a camera. Like, yeah, it can't do it as well. You can't fly quite as close to stuff comfortably. You can't fly full manual mode for sure. You can't do that, but you can do some things that are kind of like it and will kind of scratch the itch. And you can do the goggles and you can do the motion controller if you want, and you can put on a wide angle lens. Like you can get a lot closer to being an FPV drone while still having all the benefits, which are a lot, of being a cinema drone. So if you're looking at these two drones and you aren't fully in your mind being like, I want to get an FPV drone, and you're kind of like, I want a drone, but ooh, this one kind of looks cool, don't get the Avata 2. Like, I mean, I hope I don't steer you wrong, but that is my honest opinion from spending like 2 months buying these drones, flying them, really thinking about it a lot. Don't get the Avata 2 if you're at all on the fence. Go with the Mini 4 Pro. It is a lot more versatile, and really most of the reason why you're thinking about getting the Avata 2 is because you have a bit of FOMO. So that is it for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you're still watching, hey, thank you for making it all the way through the video. I am having a struggle keep my eyes open because it is like 2 in the morning currently. A little behind the scenes magic. I like the black window there, and unfortunately that only happens at night until I figure out a way to put a curtain outside or whatnot. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this through the video. I'm stumbling here with my words as I'm getting tired, but if you are still watching, like I said, links down below, affiliate links, subscription button, boom, like, comment if you do have any questions. I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out, fly safe, and as always, have a nice day. Bye.